Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I am coming to you live from Florida. Today's Monday, so it is book club day, and we are in the midst, of course, of A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and we're reading I believe it's chapter 8. It's called The Discovery of Inner Space, and we are, at least in my copy, we're reading between pages 233 to 243. Each of these book clubs, we only seem to be able to master about 10 pages at a time because it's deep. There's a lot to share here. So if you're joining me live for book club, let me know when you get here, and just put a comment in there. If you are watching the replay, let me know you're watching the replay. As always, guys, if you have questions, comments, insights from when you're reading this, put it in the comments. I come back, I interact. I absolutely love doing that, and I'm really grateful to spend the time going through book club with you because this book in particular, is very deep. I feel like the more we read, the more insight we're given, and it's really, really powerful. So, recognizing inner space. If we were to kind of kick this off the way he kicked off this section, he just said, what are you aware of right now? So if I were to ask you, obviously you're aware of me talking, but what are you aware of? Okay. Hey, Tina, good to see you. Is your mind chatting, or are you fully present? Are you thinking about what happened this past weekend? Or are you thinking about what you need to do once book club finishes? What is on your mind? Typically, if we stop and audit ourselves throughout the day, we are typically focused on the external. We're typically focused on objects. And what he points out is that if you are incessantly focused on objects and things and doing and thinking, you will never be able to access yourself, your true self, because consciousness is going to be continuing to be pulled into this world of form, and therefore you will never actually be able to experience the consciousness that you are. Does that make sense? So, if all you see are objects, all right, you're going to have a hard time also finding your inner space, that inner stillness, because you're going to be looking for it as if it's an object. It's not an object. It's very different than this world of form, all right? It's a deep, peaceful thing that you feel, and we're going to talk about feeling that and what it's like. But, well, let me just ask you this. Put a 1 in the chat if you've experienced this before. Have you ever experienced walking outside and looking up? Maybe it was a sunrise, a sunset, or just a beautiful day. Clouds were in the sky, and you just stopped. And you just noticed the absolute beauty of the sky. Put a 1 in the chat if you've ever experienced that. That just happened to me the other day. We were walking just around our house or on the property, and I just looked up and I went, whoa, this is gorgeous, Put a 2 in the chat if you have ever been alone but not felt lonely. Not needed entertainment, not needed something to, take your attention. You were able to just sit by yourself and be completely fine. This is something I would say the majority of people have a very hard time with. But put a 2 in the chat if that's something you do. I know I moved out to the country, and out here there's not much to do. So it's very much a lot of alone time, and I love it. Number 3, put a 3 in the chat if you have ever treated a perfect stranger with absolute kindness. Just all of a sudden, kindness just came flowing through you and to you, and whether it was a smile, or you gave them money, or you held the door, or you got into a conversation, or whatever it is, put a 3 in the chat if you, through heartfelt kindness, gave to a stranger. All right, I'm glad to see all these 1s and 2s and 3s. Beautiful. So guys, these are all examples of when there was a break in the incessant streaming of thoughts in your own mind, where you had clarity, where all of a sudden you could feel what it's like to live with an open heart, what it's like to live as consciousness, just experiencing the world. All right. You can feel it. It's a sense of well-being. It's a sense of peace. It's kind of a little intangible. And the more and more you do it, the yogis call it ananda, which is bliss. All right. It's literally a feeling of bliss that you feel. And this contentment, this peace, this aliveness, that's the invisible background through which all of life is existing. They say that this life that we're living, is happening in a backdrop of complete love. unconditional, all-allowing, non-judgmental space. It's love. We're surrounded by the divine all the time, but we miss it because the background is so easy to miss. All right, but it's what makes all these life experiences possible. It's like the space in this room allowing for all the furniture to be in it. I'm much more pulled to the furniture rather than the space, but everything is happening right in this field of love. And it's beautiful. It's like the air, it's like sunshine, it's all around us, it shines on everyone, it is equal, it has no judgment, right? No matter what you've done, you still get to breathe air, you still get to experience sunshine, you're still existing in love. You're surrounded by this consciousness, all right? And if you can't grasp this mentally, well, it's very difficult to, because you actually can't. You try to pin it down mentally, and it's like, it's not an object, all right? You just, at some point, will know this and experience it, like watching a sunset, like giving to a complete stranger, like just being alone and feeling completely content, all right? The smallest things often lead to the most happiness. I love it. It was page 236. I think it was like a poet or something, was talking about how just little maketh up the best happiness. You know, be still. And on 237, he gets into, why is it that the least thing that makes up the best happiness? Because true happiness is not caused by the thing or event. Listen to this. Although this is how it first appears. The thing or event is so subtle, so unobtrusive, that it takes up only a small part of your consciousness, and the rest is your inner space. Consciousness itself is now unobscured by form. In other words, the form of little things leaves room for inner space. And it is from inner space, the unconditioned consciousness itself, the true happiness, the joy of being, then emanates. So be still, look, listen, and be present. In those moments where you're seeing the sky, where you're experiencing kindness, there's not anything else in your container, in your field. Okay, and so you're not getting pulled in by all these things. The thing that's taking up space is so small that you actually feel the space with which you are. Does that make sense? That's what he's getting at here. He says there's an exercise that you can actually do, an activity if you want to remind yourself of that, and that is simply to say or think, I am, and just add nothing after it. Be aware of the stillness that follows the I am. It is the untouched, right? It's not young or old you. It's not rich or poor you. It's not that I'm good or bad or any other attribute. It's just the spaciousness of the womb of creation of all form. I am. Period. That's it. You are the I am. I was driving the other day, and I was behind this pickup truck, and it was so funny because, you know, you looked at this pickup truck. I live in the middle of nowhere, right? And so there's a lot of trucks around here, and it was like there's a bumper sticker on it that said, don't New York my Florida, or something like this. And I started laughing. And then the license plate said, find I am. And I just went, whoa, like that was unexpected. I did not expect that to be on the back of a pickup truck, you know, that had all these different bumper stickers and whatnot. But it just said, find I am. And I thought, yeah, they get it. That's what it's all about. It's about finding that I am, that peaceful stillness, the divine that we're surrounded by, that's within us. It's about accessing that. And the next part of this book was really talking about a Zen master with one of his disciples. They're on a walk in the mountains, and the young disciple is super eager, right? He's got his master there. They're down for the day. They're eating, and so he asks, right? And I believe the way he phrased it was, how do I enter Zen? Zen is this oneness. Zen is this inner peace. Hi, Charlotte. Zen is all these things. So he asked the master, how do I enter Zen? And the master doesn't say anything for 5 minutes. And so this young guy is anxiously waiting. His mind's what's it going to say? What's it going to be? Da, 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 da. And he's why isn't he saying anything? And finally, after 5 minutes, he's about to speak when the Zen master says, do you hear the mountain stream? And this young one stops and he gets quiet because, no, he didn't hear the mountain stream. All he was hearing was his thoughts. But he got quiet. he stopped thinking. And when he stopped thinking, he said all of a sudden there was this aliveness around him. And he could hear what was happening in the mountains. And very far off in the distance, he heard the mountain stream. And so he said, yes, now I hear it. And the Zen master says, enter Zen from there. And so this guy, he feels like, wow, like I've gotten it, right? And so for the next few days on the walk, he's just completely absorbed with everything that he's feeling. He's living in the present moment, where he's found this aliveness to, like, the flowers are brighter. Everything is being experienced on a different level because he's so present. His thoughts aren't there. But then eventually the thoughts come back. And so he starts contemplating things again and overthinking things again. And then he asks the master, well, what if I hadn't heard the mountain stream? And the Zen master says, then I would have told you to enter Zen from there. And I had to read that a few times because I was like, wait, what's the teaching here? But if he hadn't heard the mountain stream, he would have just been hearing silence. His mind would have gotten quieter and quieter and quieter. And that is how you enter. It's when the contents of the container become less and less and less to the point that all you notice is the still, silent backdrop, to the point where all you notice is the consciousness that you are. That's what it's all about. And that's what he was getting at. And so I thought it was really interesting because from this, he then moved into what I think was one of the best parts of the entire chapter, which is, how do you know what to do in life? How do you know what decision to make? How do you know what action to take? How do you know what direction to go? How do you know what to say? Okay, which, put a 5 in the chat, like high five me if you're like, yeah, that would be really nice to know. If I could just have complete clarity on what I'm supposed to do in any given moment, how I'm supposed to make decisions, how I know which option is the right option, like all of these things that we're bombarded with on a daily basis, some small, some big. I would love to know, if you would like to know, right? How do we solve this? And that's exactly what he gets at. All right. How do you know what to do? This is actually one of the reasons that, many of you know that I've been partnered with ASEA for like 10 years. And one of the reason was that I resonated about this actual question, which is so bizarre. Okay. But stay with me. There's a book called The 3 Questions that the founder of ASEA started to read the first time I ever heard him speak. And it's a Leo Tolstoy story that was made into a children's book. And it's this little boy going around asking all his animal friends, what am I supposed to do? And when am I supposed to do it? And who's the most important one so that I can make decisions and all this stuff, right? And basically what this book goes on to show through this kid's like day and asking is that what you're supposed to do is whatever is best for the person in front of you in any given moment. Basically, the teaching is be present. And when you're present, it will become abundantly clear what you're supposed to do because the person in front of you is going to have a need. It is going to be completely clear what step to take because you're not worried. You're just centered, focused, present, and serving the moment for what it's needed, right? That's what the teaching was. And I thought, man, I know the truth of that because after my car accident, all I had was the present moment. I couldn't think about the past or the future. I'd get so overwhelmed. I just had the present moment. It was like, be there, be there, be there. And I knew the power of that. That's what gives you access to just knowing what to do, how to do it, etc. And so he has the same teaching here. And I want to read it to you because I couldn't summarize it. I just got to read it. The ego asks, how can I make this situation fulfill my needs? And how can I get to some other situation that will fulfill my needs? So either this situation that I'm in right now needs to fulfill my needs, or I need to use this situation to get to one that's going to fulfill my needs. That's what your ego is typically telling you what to do. In your day-to-day, in every interaction, how can I get from this person what I need or this situation? Okay? But presence is a state of inner spaciousness. When you are present, you ask, how do I respond to the needs of this situation, of this moment, right? Just like the teaching in the 3 questions. Do what's right for the one in front of you. Respond to the moment and situation that you're in. Okay, I lost my spot. How do I respond to the needs of this situation, of this moment? In fact, you don't even need to ask the question. Once you're present, it will just become clear on page 238. You are still, alert, open to what is. You bring a new dimension into this situation, space. Then you look and you listen. You're not distracted by your mind and your thoughts and the past and the future and the anxieties. No, you are present. Thus, you become one with the situation. When instead of reacting against a situation, right, resisting it, thinking it shouldn't be this way, it ought to be that way, it could have been that way. No, the situation's here. You fully accepted it. So rather than, instead of reacting against the situation, you merge with it. The solution arises out of the situation itself. Actually, it is not you, the person, who is looking and listening, but the alert stillness itself. Then, if action is possible or necessary, you take action, or rather, right action happens through you. Right action is action that is appropriate to the whole, not just you, but for the situation. When the action is accomplished, the alert, spacious stillness remains. There is nobody who raises his arms in a gesture of triumph, shouting a defiant, yeah. There is no one who says, look, I did that. If you do that, the ego comes back in. So how do you know what to do when you are so fully present? I do this when I'm teaching sometimes. It was great advice from one of my spiritual teachers. She said, if you ever get tongue-tied or you ever just get a bunch of stuff going on in your mind and you lose where you're going, just stop. Pause. Be still. Be completely quiet. It helps the people that you're listening to. They'll actually be more drawn into the present, right? Because the pause makes everybody stop. But when you pause, it opens up the space, okay? It opens up the space for right action, right words, right knowing to come through. That's the beauty, okay? That is the absolute beauty of what's going on. We've got connection issues with the live stream. Well, it wouldn't be a day in my life without internet issues. So it's raining outside. I'm sure that's not helping. Hopefully you guys are still with me. So the next section he talked about is perceiving without naming. All right. And this was interesting. You know, put a 1 in the chat if you feel calmer on vacation. Who feels calmer when they're on vacation? And I think most people, right? I think that's why vacations and travel is so, like, people love to do it because they feel calmer on vacation. Does anyone not feel calmer on vacation? You know, there's that concept they say, everywhere you go, there you are. So if you're not calmer on vacation, it's probably because you brought all those thoughts with you and all that stuff with you. Yeah, so Tina's like, yeah, I'm calmer on vacation. Most of us are. Have any of you ever wondered why? Why is it that when I go and I leave my house, my life, I can be calmer? Typically, it's because when you go somewhere new, your senses are you're so in the present moment because maybe it's a new language, new sights, new sounds, new smells, new food, new whatever. All right. What he says is some people feel more alive when they travel and visit unfamiliar places or foreign countries because at those times, sense perception, experiencing, takes up more of their consciousness than thinking. They become more present. That's the key. Okay? Others remain completely possessed by the voice in their head even then. Their perceptions and experiences are distorted by instant judgments, the mask that they're seeing through, that is their mind, that is their past. Their perceptions and experiences are distorted by these instant judgments. They haven't really gone anywhere, right? Everywhere you go, there you are. Only their body is traveling while they remain where they have always been, in their heads. He says, as soon as something is perceived, it is named, interpreted, compared with something else. It is liked, it is disliked. This is what your mind does. Close your eyes and see if this is true for you. Okay, I'm going to read through this because I think this is really interesting. See if this is true for you. As soon as something is perceived, you name it, you interpret it, you compare it with something else. You say, I like this or I don't like this. You call it good or bad. He says this is the phantom self, the ego. And when you do this, you can open your eyes, you are imprisoned by thought forms in object consciousness. You do not awaken spiritually until this compulsive and unconscious naming ceases. All right? He says, if you're going around saying, I like this, I don't like this, I want it to be this way, I don't like that it's this way, and you're having all of this friction with the present moment, right, exactly, Kevin. You're running everything through your own filters, and so you're not actually in the present moment because all this junk is in the way, your ego mind. You're not seeing clearly, and so you're having some friction with the present moment. He says, if you do that, you're never going to awaken. If you want to awaken spiritually, that compulsive unconscious naming has to stop. And the way to start stopping it, right, is to just become aware that you're doing it. You know, I was sharing with one of my inner mastery students this weekend. We were talking, and she was asking how it's going with the chickens, because we just got some chickens. And I was sharing that one of the chickens ate a lizard. Like, I saw her pick up the lizard, and it was like wild, this big lizard in its mouth. And she texted back, and she said, you know, my first reaction was, oh, poor lizard. And then I started laughing at myself that I'm having this like reaction of, oh, that was bad. You know, that was a bad thing. She said, because, you know, nature, everybody needs to eat. There's a circle of life. But there I go, doing the good, bad thing. Right? Once you become aware, you'll go, oh, there's my filter. Oh, there's that thing. And you can kind of laugh at it. Okay? And once you bring awareness to it, it starts to lessen and lessen and lessen, right? So he kind of walked us through an exercise you can do. I don't know if any of you did the exercise. And whoa, chickens eat mice, Kevin? Really? I didn't know that. Nice. Well, good to know. that seems big. Maybe the mice here are like big. Really? They eat mice? Okay. So I got so distracted by that comment. I'm now envisioning my chicken eating a mouse. All right. So the activity that he talked about was staring at an object. And you know how like in some like meditations, they say stare at a candle, right? I never really fully understood what that was about, but I think that he pretty clearly put this together about like why you would do an activity like this. He says, look, when you have single pointed focus, say you're staring at a candle, or you're staring at a plant, or you're staring at something that doesn't have like sentimental value, so you don't get into all the, oh, this person gave it to me and blah, 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 or this is where I traveled and saw that, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Tina, you tried it. Good. So he says, just stare at the object, and as thoughts come, don't get involved with them. All right? I love that phrase. Just don't get involved with them. It's like the clouds are coming through the sky, but you're not becoming the cloud. You're watching the cloud move through. So you're staring at this object and you're going, oh, there are my thoughts. But you're not engaging with them. Make sense? Right? You're not getting involved, as he says. You're just looking at the object. All right? We are not interested in the thoughts, but the act of perception itself. So the point of doing this is to not pay attention to your thoughts, but to perceive. And when consciousness is no longer totally absorbed by thinking, when you've disidentified, you're using the object to disidentify from, you're giving yourself something to focus on, because you can only focus on one thing. So if thoughts come in, you just come back to the object. Thoughts, object, thoughts, object, 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 you're just coming back to it. When you no longer are totally absorbed by thinking, some of it remains in its formless state. And all of a sudden, when you're not absorbed with thinking, your consciousness can be felt. That expansive inner part of you can be felt when you're staring at something. That's how you enter. It's one way to enter, a meditative state. This is something I thought was really interesting. I just took a yoga nidra for kids. So many of you know, right? I teach, lead, I do privates, I do groups, I do all sorts of stuff with yoga nidra. I love it because it's a guided meditation that takes you to this exact inner space that we're talking about, right? Eckhart Tolle talks about it, but sometimes I'm like, okay, there's no practical stuff. Staring at an object, practical, yes, but yoga nidra's like, it made easy how you get there. But in the yoga nidra for kids training, one of the things you have children do is just listen. Close their eyes and just listen. What do you hear that you don't usually hear? Don't name it good, don't name it bad, just listen. What do you hear on the right side? What do you hear on the left side? And it's teaching kids to quiet the chatter, just like that Zen, the disciple of the Zen master had to do. Quiet the inner chatter, because you can only pay attention to one thing. Energy follows attention. So if you put your attention onto listening, you're going to hear more. All right? And the thoughts are naturally going to have to quiet down. That's the beauty of it. So really, 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 really powerful. Okay. So the last bit he talked about, was there anything else I wanted to say with this? No, that's just the exercise. Yeah. So the last part of this chapter was talking about who is the experiencer. So there's the experience and the experiencer. And, probably the best thing that I've ever heard was the first time I ever heard my teacher speak. This was the teaching she gave. She said, close your eyes. You can all do this. And imagine yourself standing on a beach. And it's just you, the beach, and the water. Nothing else as far as you can see to the horizon. And then in your mind's eye, see a boat coming into your vision from the right. That boat is moving. And at some point, it's all you can see. But because the boat is moving, it continues moving on. And it goes off the left side of your vision. And now, again, it's just you, the beach, and the water, as far as you can see the horizon. She had us open our eyes, and she said, are you the boat? And I was like, is she crazy? Is that like a trick question? Like, what's going on? No, clearly I'm not the boat. Like, at one point, it was taking up all I could see. I felt like there wasn't anything else, but I'm not it. I was the one observing it. And she said, what the yogis have taught is that the boat is like your thoughts. Is it not true that you are there before, during, and after a thought, even though it can take up everything? And then she went on to say, what about the body? All right, imagine yourself as a 5-year-old. Picture your hair, how you wore it, your clothes, your smile. Now fast forward to when you're a teenager. See your hairstyle, your clothes, right? Your personality. Now your 20s. Now fast forward to now. Is it not true that there is something unchanged that has observed the body? The body is also coming in and going out, but there is something behind it that feels the same, that is unchanged, that has witnessed the aging of the body. It's not the body, it's the observer, it's the experiencer. That's what he was talking about here. Okay, that's exactly what he was talking about, right? The experiencer is not Danielle. It's not his example of Jane Smith, right? It's not you, Kevin, or you, Tina, right? Or you, Luann. It's not any of you. The experiencer is the witness. It's the consciousness behind it that's allowing for it all to actually be felt, all right? So, page 242. I just thought this was so good. I'm just, again, going to read it. So who is the experiencer? You are. And who are you? You are consciousness. And what is consciousness? This question cannot be answered. The moment you answer it, you have falsified it, made it into another object. That's why some teachings call it the no thing. It's the nothingness. Consciousness, the traditional word for it is spirit, cannot be known in the normal sense of the word, and seeking it is futile. All knowing is within the realm of duality. That's the realm we are in. We are in the realm of duality. Everything has polarity, subject and object, the knower and the known. The subject, the I, the knower, without which nothing could be known, perceived, thought, or felt, must remain forever unknowable. This is because the I has no form. Only forms can be known, and yet without the formless dimension, the world of form could not be. It is the luminous space in which the world arises and subsides. The space is the life that I am. It is timeless. I am timeless. What happens in that space is relative and temporary. Pleasure and pain, gain and loss, birth and death. I think the best way I've ever heard this described is an ocean and a wave. The ocean becomes form. It becomes a wave. But eventually that wave cycles back into the ocean. The wave could never be without the ocean, but the ocean could also never experience the air in the land of form and everything around it without its expression as a wave. Does that make sense? And what the yogis say is that that's why we're here. The formless consciousness has decided it wants to experience, so it has come, it is manifested through this body. I'm the wave, you're the wave, all right? And it goes out into this world of form, and it has to forget who it is. Consciousness has to forget so that it can fully experience, see, hear, smell, taste, touch, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, everything. So then it can actually experience itself, because eventually it asks, what is the point of all of this? And why am I here? And you come back and you learn of yourself. There's a conscious awareness of consciousness being experienced through you. That's what it's all about. This is stuff we dive into in Inner Management Mastery. So those of you that have been my students, you know, right? This is it. This is what we're doing here. And he's getting at the same exact thing. All right, so I'll just finish up with this. Enthralled by the experience that you lose, so many people get enthralled with the experience that they lose themselves in it. It means consciousness is lost in its own dream. All right? You get taken in by every thought, every emotion, and every experience to such a degree that you are in fact in a dream-like state. This has been the normal state of humanity for thousands of years. And it is time to wake up. And this book club is meant to help wake you up. Inner Management Mastery is meant to help wake you up. These communities that I'm creating are meant to help wake you up and remember. So thank you for spending the time here, guys. Share this with others. This is the conversation humanity needs to have. So share this with other people. Make sure if you've got comments, questions, put them in. I'll come back to them. And of course, I'll see you on Telegram as well. And next week, we're just finishing this chapter. So it starts with the breath on page 243, and we'll take it through the end of chapter 8. All right. Have a great week, guys. Bye.